Hey, everybody. Good morning. It's Sunday, December 21st. 10 days of this year to go. I must say thank you. I'm looking forward to 2025. Bye bye. But the year ends with some pretty heavy energy um, as I see it. So I'm going to give the room a chance for some people to come in. Um, as this is the second to the last broadcast of the year. And I think some of you know that Small Wildflowers is going through chemo. So every other week she has chemo. And she had it on Monday, and it affects her, pretty laser out for quite some time the next week. So we probably won't see, I know we won't see her today, but I don't know about next week. So please say prayers and send well wishes for her. Um, Oh, yay, somebody's in the room. Welcome, welcome. I want to wish all my Capricorns a happy birthday. Um, the sun has entered Capricorn today. Mars is in Capricorn. Venus is in the last days of being in Sagittarius. Hi, Catherine. Welcome. Lulu, my little baby, it's our 2-month anniversary today. She came to live with me on October 21st, and we've settled into a nice little groove. So, anybody who wants to send Small Wildflowers a card or anything, her P.O. box is in the comments. I'm going to repost it and pin it on this video. Good morning, MK. I really think this week is kind of heavy and a little bit of the holidays themselves are very loaded with family history, with family dynamics, friend dynamics, even, triggering the love life as we head into New Year's. And we are watching Saturn and Pisces hanging out at 25 and 29 degrees of Pisces. Did I just say that right? My brain just fritzed. Anyway, I say this because Pisces is a dissolving energy. It's an energy that kind of tasks us to incorporate everything we have experienced throughout the zodiac as we've traversed it, to seek higher ground, divine wisdom, and I think that's very much what Saturn and Neptune are doing. This conjunction, I've said repeatedly, is, only happens like once every 1470 years. And those of us that are alive are redefining ourselves right now. And part of that redefining is to allow what has been toxic, what has not been sustainable, what is not supporting a bigger vision of what we want to experience. And, the thing about it is often the human thinks about, when they think about building something, they think about building a career, building a family. And I was thinking to myself, this Pisces energy is so mutable, and Saturn is so strong in its responsibility that somewhere there must be this fusion that makes our individual desires, and if they are to retreat, to go a bit into meditation, to be reflective, but not on the past, but on what we want to build, I think that's a very powerful energy for right now. Saturn being at 25 degrees and hanging out there feels like it's tasking me to really look at how I want to be brave moving forward in my life, and not brave about taking action, brave about the thinking before, or thinking about more than just the initial response to something. At 66 years old, what I've come to realize about myself is almost everything I built, it was so that somebody else would validate me. It wasn't, I don't know if it has been as pure as I thought it has been. And that's not what I want to do moving forward. I want to do things for the joy of Teri's expression. I want to express my astrology that way. And so this is what Saturn's doing. What are you building that's sustainable? Now, Neptune is, there's that fog. There's that feeling of not really being able to swim up against the tide of the ocean, that Mother Earth is truly way more powerful than us. So there's a surrendering that's going on. And I think that the holidays are going to highlight that. They're going to highlight this awareness. A lot of us who endeavor astrology, when we know people have fixed signs, they're not always going to shift. And we can hope they're going to shift, but depending upon, the intensity or the length of their habits, sometimes we just look and go, that person's not going to, I don't need to villainize them. I don't need to victimize myself, but I do need to move away or emotionally distance myself. And I don't mean that like to say something to someone else. It's sort of going into a neutral ground, that wisdom that sees above a situation that says, oh, I don't need to pick this. I don't need to be right here. I don't need to move forward. Because I'll tell you, Venus is sitting on 1 degree away from the super or the galactic center. And I think that has a lot to do, with Venus ruling Taurus and ruling history, our personal history, Christmas time, Saturn and Pisces at the last degree, Saturn and Neptune at the last degrees of Pisces, as we're birthing a new self in 2026, because as those two planets become tighter and tighter together, Saturn, gaining speed, it's going to get more intense and more potentially erosive, but at the same time, more spiritual, more aware that the soul has agreed to certain challenges in order to feel the triumph or the exhilaration or the achievement of that. And so I think that's why this is so intense. Now let's couple Chiron squaring Jupiter retrograde all week. Chiron is in Aries, has been for a while, long while, and it's at those last degrees again. And this particular week, they are pretty much at 22 degrees the whole week, which is a very tense degree in and of itself. And so Jupiter in the sign of home and representing our beliefs, and then Chiron in Aries representing the self and, assertion. There can be a lot of potential for the unconscious human to be triggered, to be victimized. And I'm not saying we couldn't feel that way, but it could happen around us. And because it's around us, we have an opportunity to be aware of it and then not engage or to implement new habits or new awarenesses. If we've been a fixer, maybe we stop fixing. If we've empathized with somebody to the point of our own detriment, maybe we just go into neutral. These are the planets' opportunities right now. If we go under the theory that the planets all represent aspects of ourselves, then this makes it even easier to not be, feel like Saturn's doing something to us or Neptune's trying to pull something away. This has been a year, honestly, of so much unexpected loss. And I was thinking about in Placidus, my 5th house is Virgo. And we always associate, Virgo with good health and this and that. But I lost, my first love this year. And that's the South Node going through the house of high school romance. So I really feel like if we could dig a little bit deeper and not look at the planets so much as what they're doing to us, but what we've agreed to participate in to build a stronger sense of self from a more concrete and grounded awareness that our soul and our intention is a real thing. It is a real thing, not something that's wooey. Okay. I also want to say this because the moon is going to be in Pisces on Christmas Day here in the United States and part of Boxing Day, the 26th. This could also create a lot of emotion. It could create a lot of, the moon in Pisces, very emotional, very idealistic, and can also be very disheartened by, years and years of people being the same way. Family can be hard. We'd like to think that family is our safe harbor. And some people are lucky enough to have that, but some people aren't. And even if you're by yourself, so just be so gentle with yourself this week. Uranus is pretty much at 28 degrees of Taurus retrograde. And that to me is also speaking to, looking at my personal history, wherever that is in your chart, wherever Taurus is, that's how you feel about yourself. That's your self-worth as it was designed and modeled and molded by your 4th house or what that represents. And so I really think this is a really it's kind of weird because I don't think it's heavy like depressing. I think it's heavy like, oh my gosh, I've been doing astrology and now I know why these people are the way they are. And now I know that, at this age, Aunt Lulu's never going to change, or Teri is always going to be like this. I mean, I just feel like that can bring a little solace or bring a little bit of comfort during this week. Also, Mercury is going to be conjunct the great attractor this week. And that's at 14 degrees of Sagittarius. There's a pretty wide orb on that point, but the closer it gets, the more our ability to attract what we want. And I really think putting our eye on the prize of wisdom, on sort of a deeper understanding, so we can step into 2026, which I think is going to be intense, okay? Because that transit's going to get tighter and tighter on the world axis before it opens up. And that could play out in the outside world too, where government, Saturn, authority, feels restrictive. You feel confused. You're not sure about who am I? How do I play out in this world? Am I even purposeful? And this is kind of where I want to pull back, and I want to, say, isn't there purpose in just being? And does my being have to produce something every day? And do I produce it for myself in the way of satisfaction? And I'm glad I did this. Or do I produce it on some unconscious loop that says, if you don't do something, if you're not productive, if you're not, building your life, making more money, finding love, you're useless, you're worthless. I think these are the kind of things that we're being tasked to kind of look at and discern from a new eye. So, okay, that's it for the week. Let's go into our readings. I want to wish all my Capricorns a happy, happy birthday. Oh, MK, that's interesting. That's a big new moon. Wasn't that at like 28 degrees? I can't recall, but I think it was. Because that would make your natal moon on the on the galactic center, and any planet that's within 1 to 2 degrees of that point, stretching is 3. You have the ability in meditation, almost through mindless repetition within the body, to get inspirations and downloads that you don't even realize. I mean, you can do it intentionally, but you can also do it unconsciously. And with the moon there, that would make you really be able to connect. All right, let's start with our Capricorns. We're going to do our tarot card, and then we'll do the reading for the week. Now, your ruling planet is in this Neptune, well, obviously Saturn conjunction. And I want to say it this way because what Capricorn has been going through with Pluto transiting your first house and now in your second house, I really think that this is about identifying where potentially you're focused on the lower aspects of Capricorn, where you could be obsessed with building something, or obsessed with being an authority, or obsessed with people seeing your leadership. Because I really think that there's something about that baby goat that is really the key to Capricorn liberating itself and being able to incorporate the duty, but it's not duty because I'm forced to do it. It's duty because it's something that makes me feel like a hero in my heart. Again, we're talking about the Aries energy overlaying this. Oh, MK, that's cool that your natal moon is 27 degrees Sagittarius. That is really, I'd play with that. I'd literally be talking to the universe, asking questions and requesting solutions, and then looking for divine inspirations. Okay, I'm going to tell a quick story. Mike, you guys all know that Mike passed away on June 15th, and I have been, really talking to him for 6 months now. And at Thanksgiving, he gave me a huge sign that he was around. And I had plans that day, so I could see how he would have access to give me that sign. So the last couple of days, I was like, so Mike, I'm going to be home on Christmas. It's going to be raining. How are you going to give me this sign that you're wishing me a Merry Christmas? And 2 nights ago, I walked the dog out about 8 o'clock at night for her last pee, and there was a lone gardenia that had bloomed in the gardenias. Gardenias don't bloom in December when the weather is, in the 50s and 60s and it's foggy. And I literally am convinced 100% that Mike influenced that, or knew that that gardenia had a latent bloom that would come out at this time of year. See, spirit doesn't actually make things happen. Spirit sort of knows things happen because there's a spiral of time, and then they put their intention and energy towards something and it co-creates. That is so awesome. That is a superpower, MK. That is a superpower. And now it's time to really, dig in and use that superpower over and over again. I mean, literally, that's where I think this new age is coming. This is where I think they've been talking about the ascension, because with Pluto in Aquarius, with Uranus going into Gemini this coming year, and then Saturn and Neptune, more Neptune, because there's a beautiful harmonious aspect that's going to be very long term between Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto that deconstructs, but then moves us into the future in a new way. And so the more we're aware of the co-creation and the signs, and we stop over analyzing and just take it, like, why wouldn't I get a sign? This has been the way of humanity for a lot longer than this modern age. Symbols, signs, honoring the earth and what the earth gives back to us when we honor it. So pay attention now, really, because I think that, this is going to be the third time that these planets get near my south node. And I really, knock on wood, feel like most of the deconstruction, surrender, the bye-bye Lucky, bye-bye Jeremy, bye Mike, and all the other things that happened that I didn't win at this year were bringing me into this awareness of how I was building what I thought I wanted. So write them down, take notes, because you'll be really surprised at what might be coming forth. Like, literally, that's, you piece it together, and it wouldn't make sense in the moment, but as time goes on, it'll make sense, or it'll be more clear. All right, let's get to our Capricorns. Anybody want to help with the timestamps in the comments? That would be great. Okay, Capricorn birthday people. Your tarot card this week is the 10 of Wands, but it's upside down. This is immediately a lifting of burden. Love. This is totally feels like, I love this for Capricorn, because this is what Capricorn tends to do. It tends in its most, human muggle form to endure pain, endure human structure and responsibility that is absolutely out of balance. So this is a lifting of that. Let's see what the angels have to say, because, with your ruling planet hovering on the world axis and moving into Aries, which is, I want to offer it this way. While Saturn really doesn't have any known, like, at least from my point of view, any big energy in Aries, because Mars is exalted in Capricorn, when Saturn shows up in Aries, there is a honoring. It's not quite like an exaltation, but it can be very favorable, because Saturn going into Aries can give that sort of more strategic warrior, that less, impulsiveness. Hi, 145 Club. It's so good to see you. It's been a while. Okay. I'm going to try not to talk a lot, but I don't think it's possible. My second house is actually Gemini, so my superpower is talking. Okay, listen, I got very warm. This too. All right, Capricorn. The eagle is showing up. The serpent is reversed. Merlin is reversed. And the death card. Let's look at our angels. Now, I want to offer this because, oftentimes, people will say, I have a lot of work to do to get where I want to go emotionally. I need to look back and unravel. And there comes a point, and I think this is the beauty of age, where you just stop. You don't have to look back anymore in any deep way. You just move forward. And this is moving forward emotionally. What do I want? This is moving forward, you know, assessing whether I'm doing something because I have to do it or because I want to do it. And that is the key for Capricorn right now. So the 10 of Wands reversed is lifting the burden. The eagle is saying that you're connected to the angelic realm. The eagle is being joined by Archangel Michael, asking you to have the courage to truly adopt this new perspective or this new awareness. The serpent is upside down and it represents knowledge and healing. And I think this is knowledge. I think this is where Capricorn could still be, you know, without realizing it. Because I mean, I'm a very aware person and I still do things with motives that I'm not aware of until I've stepped in it. So I think here the serpent is talking about knowledge, and here comes Sonia, but she's upside down. So somewhere you might be getting caught up in the everyday, you know, this is a busy time of year. And a lot of us are caught up in, you know, things like weather. There's Christmas week is supposed to rain a lot here. I know there's snow going on, but I want to offer it this way because this would mean that you've slipped back into muggleness a little bit. And Spirit is saying, no, we want you to reconnect. Yes, because there's Merlin upside down being joined by Isaiah. So it's really time to implement more balance too. It's so easy, you know, to get caught up in what we read on the news, all the terrible things that have happened, you know, to the people in Australia and the school shootings and, you know, Rob Reiner. I mean, there's so much icky stuff going on. And it can feel a little hopeless. The death card is being joined by Ray. So this is really saying for my Capricorns, this is please reconnect with yourself, your spirit, take some time. I almost want to say not slow down, but be in the present, because the burden is trying to be lifted from you. The old way of doing things doesn't have to be thrown out, but it can be re-engaged in a new way with more balance. And that's really what Spirit is saying. And in order to implement that balance, Capricorn kind of has to sit closer to Neptune. I don't mean that I mean that sort of metaphorically, because as Saturn and Neptune come together, this is really that awareness. Am I building my house on what my soul knows to be a deeper truth? Or am I building it on fear? I'm getting old. The TV tells me I'm going to die. La, la, la. There's going to be a lot of, I think there's going to be a lot of medical things that come up. A lot of, you know, Pisces rules hospitals and research laboratories, things like that. So I do think we're going to hear a lot more about drugs. And if for some reason, I'm just going to say this, I hope it doesn't freak anybody out, but if you hear news about, you know, I took the COVID shot and now they're saying blah, blah, blah about it, you know, this potential side effect, know that your divine energy will keep you healthy when you connect that direction, okay, versus allowing fear to set in and your mind to go a little cray-cray. All right. I hope that made sense. Hi, Lucy. Well, I think that hospitals, research, pharmaceuticals, they kind of live in the Pisces energy to me, because pharmaceuticals mask things. They don't cure them, you know, a lot, maybe some do, but a lot just mask symptoms. So anyway, I don't know. I don't do any pharmaceuticals. I don't even have aspirin in my house. I went to the store the other day to get aspirin because I've been eating bad food and my body feels very stiff. And then I just heard Spirit say, don't buy aspirin, just stop eating shit. And I have been eating really bad. I went to Trader Joe's and went like a little nuts. And everything that is in my refrigerator, I'm like, oh, I want to eat it now because I'm going to start a cleanse at the beginning of the year. Turmeric. Yeah, I've got turmeric too. Yeah. I need to put some of that in my teas. I'm simmering ginger right now, fresh ginger. All right, on to our Aquarius, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. And just, again, you guys, Small Wildflowers isn't here today. She had her treatment on Monday. She feels pretty punky and that's putting it nicely. Sending her well wishes would be, awesome. All right, Aquarius, let's see what's happening. Your tarot card for this week is the Fool, but it's reversed. Now, I think of the Fool as very much a Mars energy. Most people say it's a Uranian energy. I think Uranus rules the tower, but this is a lack of an adventure. And I think part of it might be, if you look at this card, that moon and the star feels as if it's just popping off of the card. So I think when it comes to new ideas, new ventures, maybe there's a pause there, or maybe Spirit doesn't want you to push on something. Again, we are at the holidays, but for some reason this venture may be an emotional one. This is the little bit of the challenge with Aquarius. Aquarius is so humanitarian. It rules such, cosmic consciousness. Let's make the world a better place, right? That sometimes the individual needs get a little bit muddied. And because Aquarius can feel like, a little bit like on a lone wolf, like they're on their own, they're, an alien, that they too can shut down an emotional aspect. Because this to me is saying something about the emotional dynamic. Okay, there's something going on here for Aquarius to start to this. With the card being upside down, you can't fill the emotional cup. Okay, it feels like whatever's happening is running out. So I need to pause and recalibrate. The other thing about this card is you see that big old alligator? That's an old crocodile. That's representing sort of an emotional history. So it might be don't try to just venture out, but be more aware of the platform you're starting your adventure on. Is it emotionally aligned to not only you, but those that you want or love around you? I bought some hot cocoa from Real Mushrooms, and it's all a mushroom blend. I literally know it's because I ate frozen food. I never eat frozen food, and I ate frozen food. Bad things at Trader Joe's. I bought them right after Lucky passed away, and I was having a pity party, and I cannot do that. I know it. I knew it when I was eating it. I even made sure I didn't eat too much, but it didn't matter. It's awful, but every once in a while you want to do it. I even went and picked up, I was thinking about my grandma, and she used to make apple turnovers from Petridge Farm, for us for breakfast. And I almost bought them. I got them all the way to the checkout stand. And then I said to the checker, no, please keep these. I can't, because I knew I was going to eat them and it would just hurt. I can't. So I have to, I'm really preparing to do a big cleanse. And I think that's another thing about the Neptune-Saturn conjunction. Because Neptune rules the lymphatic system. It rules, obviously it's a health axis. We've got the South Node going through Virgo. So I think, right now to be a little unconscious and just give into those whims is really teeing myself up for a problem. And I'm not going to do that. All right, Aquarius, Rochelle, as you honor and follow the guidance of your heart. And there's that moon upside down with the star. Oh, there's Bridget saying to look deeper into a situation. We have Adriana saying they're trying to lead you, but she's upside down. So somewhere, something needs to stop and to look at it twice to determine if indeed it is the platform you want to build on or what you want to experience. And Caressa is saying that you are not at the end of a life cycle just yet. All right. Lulu's digging in her bed. She is a funny girl, I'm telling you. She does the most funny things. All right, Rochelle is being joined by the B card, but the B card is upside down. Aquarius, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. You honestly, if you have a stellium, that's a lot. But if you have your moon, I really think it's like slow down. What am I doing? Where, there's an electric feeling to your planet, to Uranus, to there is a little bit of a daredevil in there. I'm going to be like, I see Mel Gibson with his hatchet running through, the Patriot, that movie. And somewhere I feel like there, you need to slow down, look at where you're going, plan a little bit deeper, maybe look a little bit more into, if I do this a year from now, will I like blah, blah, blah. Bridget is saying there's an upside down disruption card joining Bridget. So whatever is happening right now, it's not negative. It's trying to keep you from misstepping, I think. Adriana is trying to lead you, but you're not connected to your intuition. You're not connected to your emotional body somewhere. The other thing too, there's the anxiety that's connected to the Aquarian energy. I think oftentimes, and I'm not saying people can't have anxiety. Lulu, hey, thank you. But I do think sometimes for my Aquarians, that anxiety is really foretelling something. It's saying, wait, slow down. Look, is this really the way you want to go? There's an intuitive aspect to that anxiety. And I think when Aquarius is being pushed into a muggle kind of lane, it gets even more intense. So here, Spirit is saying they're trying to reach through, but somehow you're not, you've got to stop and slow down and connect. And this is very interesting because there's a block to your new beginning, because your being energy is not completely. All right, I want to offer it this way for my Aquariuses. If for some reason you are finding that Pluto is taking you to the end of your rope and you're like, I just want to be away from this. This is terrible. I hate this person. I hate this job. I hate this apartment. I hate this house. Whatever it is, even if it's true, slow it down before you take action, so you don't have to so you're not reacting. So when you do make your shift, it's really based on not just getting away from what is distasteful, but what will grow in the future. This is a little challenging, I'm not going to lie. And I think Saturn and Neptune and that conjunction, coupled with the Jupiter squaring Chiron, both are retrograde in the house of self and home. In your own chart, the houses will show the landscape, will show the environment. But those aspects are really, I think, super challenging this week. And that Jupiter in Cancer retrograde is like, this is how the family's always done it. This is what the family believes. This is da-da-da. This is how we blah, blah, blah. And you may just be on rebel mode. But instead of reacting, because you will not be victorious unless you follow your heart. And your heart might be out of the mix because you're pissed. This is a Mars energy for me, not Uranus. So this could be that don't get pissed. Pay attention to your emotional body before you react. What is going on here? All right, on to our Pisces. Now the moon's going to join your sign this week. I think it's the 24th, the 25th and the 26th in the United States. And, this could really bring up some, you could feel super intuitive right now with the moon, Saturn ruling history, and Neptune having it traverse over that time. And I want to offer it this way because there's a weird feeling of Saturn wanting Pisces to ground your inner knowing. And the inner knowing, the intuitive knowing that says, I can empathize, I can be compassionate to you, but I know you're out of balance and I can't suck up your story. I can't suck up your energy. It's not, again, I'm not advocating that everybody go around and cutting out all the imbalances in their lives, but having an awareness, you sort of put up almost like a picket fence. You're not really keeping anyone out, but you're not really letting them in where they can cootieize you. Is that terrible to say that the people you love have cooties? Because some of them are going to really show some energetic cooties right now. Lulu, what is going on over there? Why are you doing that? Please, thank you. I just gave the girl a bath, literally. And she's been more itchy since I gave her a bath. Okay, let's see what your tarot card is. The King of Swords. This is very interesting because this is the King of Aquarius. This is a little bit where, a little emotional distance from a situation, holding your truth. This is the truth seeker here. And in this deck, we see these eagles sort of feel as if they are a part of his armor, and that could be your own perspective, your own sense of integrity, your own seeing above a situation. The other thing that's kind of interesting, these are actually, I think, our hummingbirds, but when I first looked at them, it sort of looked like flying fish, although I don't think it would be. There's a transformation going on of some kind. And I want to say that could be Saturn's influence in your first house. So let's see where we're going. I'm just getting such a strong feeling that this week is not about taking action. It's about being aware in the moment and being aware of whether I'm feeling pushed or whether my own energy is being honored. And I think I have to honor my energy first. I also want to mention that with Neptune at that anaretic degree, there's a lot of tension there because it's like asking me to take action, but not physical action. It's interior action. It's this weird, like I kind of said this earlier. I can't remember what sign it was for, but it's kind of like looking at the people around you and seeing that they are who they are. They may not change. Aquarius is a fixed sign. There's Archangel Uriel, who's helping with resentment and unforgiveness. There is Isaiah offering a new beginning. Aurora is upside down, so you're not feeling like you're flying high right now. Actually, the opposite. And Celeste talks about a new home or a new place of employment. Now, I think that's a shift in the way I'm thinking, because you can put my physical body anywhere and it does not change your experience. The laws of attraction, who you are, how you perceive things will follow you wherever you go. So I really think this king is talking about bringing yourself up and being a little bit less emotionally invested in another person's story. Archangel Uriel is being joined by the Earth Fairy. And I literally feel like if there's any anger or resentment or hurt or, out of balance emotions, that it could be affecting your health, affecting how you feel, stressing you out, making you tired, making you want to retreat into your bedroom. Hey, J-Dog, welcome. Okay, Isaiah is being joined by the High Priestess. The High Priestess in this particular sense is a new beginning of discernment, and that's further echoed by this king. The kings are always going to bring a sense of mastery, a sense of kind of, the protector energy coupled with their suit. So this is about protecting your thoughts, and thereby protecting your future. Protecting the thoughts is not about a rebellion or a push up against about anyone else. It's that discernment. It's like in your head going, oh yeah, they always do that. They're never going to stop doing that. They don't even know how to stop doing that, because some people can't stop what they're doing. The Aurora, you're flying high, you're not flying high right now because it's time to the death card is transformation, right? And that transformation is not really a transformation. To me, it's a utilization of your gifts. It's kind of starting to say, Pisces is a polarizing energy because there can be such a sense of invisibility, a sense of, if I'm not, focused on the other or focused on compassion or focused on even my creativity, somehow I feel alone. Because Celeste talking about a new home or a new place of employment, which could happen in the new year, very much feels more like I'm shifting out of something the way I think. And I think that what I would suspect is that I'm going to start putting myself into a place where I see myself. And if I see myself, then others will. And there you go. The Fire Fairy, creative action and optimism. So I think we start off with it being a little bit rough, but it ends much better. And I say that because I think through the awareness and through that self, you know, it's kind of like, I mean, I hate to say it, but there are times when you can see the phone ring or you can see someone text you and you just don't have the bandwidth to deal. Like there's nothing wrong with that person. There's nothing wrong with the situation. Just you personally, and you don't want to have to explain yourself to them or make excuses or stress yourself out. And that's what I think is going on here. I think ultimately you're going to recognize where, over giving, over delivering is creating maybe potential resentment and affecting you physically or affecting your motivation. And then having that discernment allows you to start a new beginning. And then you recognize that that new beginning is interior. It's not about going to the other person and having a conversation, because this is about mastering things first before I step out. And here is where you start to feel a little bit better. You start to shift your thoughts a little bit. You start to feel a little more optimistic. And creative action might help that. And I say that because creativity is really the closest thing any human can do to feeling the divinity within. And you can be creative with anything. You can be creative literally. It's just a matter of plugging into that idea is not work. It is something I'm producing. I hope that made sense. Because during the holidays, frankly, what I think the overall theme is to relax. That this is the end of another wave of a storm, and almost rather than trying to push on the headwind, let's calm it down, because when we move into the new year, there's going to be some stuff going on. We'll get there. All right, we're on to our Aries, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Now, I got to say for my Aries, this feels like a little bit like, a double whammy, because the Chiron, at the last degrees, right now 22 degrees retrograde in Aries. And then as Neptune and Saturn are creeping up on that world axis, you really are going to be tasked to look at how you perceive yourself, how you engage. One of the things is that, and I'm an Aries rising, sometimes, Aries kind of thinks, or doesn't think for that matter, that they can just bark out something, and you're not supposed to get mad at me because that's just who I am. That might not work anymore. I think it's going to play out on levels. I absolutely have great, the world at large will experience some things, and we'll see how that happens. But it's like when I think about this conjunction and how it's going to affect our environment, it feels like it's going to be hard, because a lot of old structures that, are semi-useful but not really useful are going to go away. We may see things, more electronic things being thrust upon us, where we no longer, like, who writes a check at the market anymore, right? And if someone stops to write a check, do you think, wow, they're writing a check? Or do you think, God, that's going to take forever? So I think that some of those structures are going to change big time. And I'm hoping that Neptune's energy brings more spiritual awareness into the Aries energy, because I really don't want to see everybody fighting over their beliefs. It's already cray cray. So I'm hoping it's going to calm down. But and the other thing I have to say too is I watch history, and the years up to 1776, between 1754 and 1776, there was a hell of a lot of violence in the United States. And that was when Pluto was, in Capricorn for the United States. And then as Pluto moved into Aquarius, a new world was birthed. So I don't know if it's going to play out. I don't think it's going to play out as it did, historically. I think it's going to be more on a cerebral level. I think it's going to be Pluto demanding that we understand our own personal psychology, the psychology that, that anchors us into smallness. And in doing that, then we're going to start to take our power back from structures that disempower us, structures that say, you only have this limitation, or you can only do that unless you do this, which actually benefits the other party. So I hope that made sense and I answered it. When I think about the tapping, because a lot of people do EFT, these are modalities that yes, the tapping, it stimulates the physical, but it also focuses, right? So wherever you're tapping, whatever you're doing, you're participating in a co-creation and then alerting your body that this is what you want to experience. Okay. All right. Aries, you ready? Here we go. The Chariot, but it's upside down. Now, this is interesting because the Chariot infers hard pull in two different directions. And, it's a card of victory. But inverted here, it feels almost as if Aries does not feel the pull of two different directions. Now, what I need to know is Aries connected to their emotional body? Because this charioteer's armory is really his emotional intuitive awarenesses. Okay. And when I say intuitive, I don't want everyone to think it's like a psychic prediction every time. Intuition is like you're walking down the street and like you get this feeling like, Mom, I don't know if I should go that direction. It doesn't feel good to me. I'll go that way. I mean, it's using your gut. It's using the senses that have been dumbed down by the human structure and invalidated. Because here, this is how that hit me for Aries. It's almost like it isn't about victory right now. It's about that Saturn Neptune in my 12th house, okay, unraveling old stories or structures of limitation. And now my awareness is bringing me into like feeling less vulnerable to the push-pull. But let's see what the cards have to say. All right, we have Chantal, which is all about love and romance. We have Sonia, which is about deceased loved ones. We have Aurora saying you're flying high right now. And then we have Serafina saying a happy change to your family is coming. That's interesting. I think we all do, but we just, oftentimes, Lucy, people throw their gifts away. They take the hard road, and sometimes they just get steered out of their gifts. And I think that's part of the new age, is not to be steered out of your gifts, but rather to be embraced for your gifts. That's why I like seeing these kids baking shows, and when they give these kids opportunities to do things that in prior generations just wasn't available. Chantal is being joined by the serpent, but the serpent is reversed. So this is about knowledge and healing. Sonia is here being joined by the Baird, which rules history and the enchantment of storytelling. We have Aurora being joined by the perception card, but the perception card is upside down. And then we have Serafina being joined by the partnership card. When I look at this for my Aries, I don't see this as situational. I see this as the Chariot representing the sign of Cancer. the sign of emotional awareness. Okay, I feel as if Spirit is saying for you to look for clarity rather than pulling yourself in two different directions. Pick a lane, Aries, because I think they're telling you that love is the lane. And I don't think that this is necessarily about intimate love, because the serpent and being upside down, it's almost like, you know what, Aries, you've come to a place in your life where, being pissed off, being resentful, whether you're right, it doesn't matter. It's still not going to make the situation change. So what will you pick? Will you pick your own personal peace? Because this feels like, in this reverse, I feel like, yes, my emotions are upside down. My victory is upside down. And so I have to pick. Yeah, it could be not. This could actually be not running, stop pushing and pulling, because you're not getting anywhere. There's no knowledge coming from it. There's no healing. It's time to take a softer approach, a more loving approach. This is the history card, okay? And Sonia, this is your team, Aries. This rewrite that's happening, especially for my early born Aries, is offering you an opportunity to stand in the same strength that you always have had, but then being more aware of how you are presenting yourself. Because Aurora is saying that you will fly high when you're aware of how your perception influences how you communicate. Because this is the enchantment of storytelling. How do you talk about your history, or how do you create the new story? Because now I think this is about coming into partnership with your own happiness. And when I say that, I mean that in such a way that, we all have a bit of Herman's head in here. We all have, a bit of inside out, where certain emotions feel distasteful and certain emotions feel very unpleasant. But it is the rainbow of emotions that spawns us into broadening, to expansion. So I think for my Aries that this week, your best line of moving forward, I guess, is to be aware of an interior push and pull, and maybe you have no power over it. I referenced earlier, some of the fixed signs are just, they're not going to shift. And the older someone gets and they're sitting in the lack of movement, the less likely they are that they're going to shift. So for your own happiness, you get to shift. And that's why you're a cardinal sign with the ability to move. Okay, on to our Tauruses. All right. All right, my Tauruses. Your tarot card this week is the Queen of Wands, but she's inverted. So this is an interesting energy, because the Queen of Wands is fiery. She's passionate. She's caring. She is inspiring. So let's see what's going on. Because there would be a lack of that. And sometimes during the holidays, we feel like the beasts of burden, because we've got to get this and we've got to do that and we've got to. This is the greatest part about being alone. I don't have to do anything, but most people don't live in this situation. And I also suffer with I don't have to do anything. There aren't people to cook for, or there aren't people to buy presents for. I mean, family. So let's see, Taurus. We have Archangel Michael, but he's upside down. In this deck is about courage. We have Omega as victory. We have Shanti, which is about tranquility and peace. And then we have Xana, which is protection. Again, the fixed signs all have such a powerful way of being steady and holding fast. But we also know that each sign has its, good and its challenging. And here, right now, I think Spirit is a little bit asking for Taurus to be willing to assess whether or not a situation is bringing inspiration, fire, passion. Am I feeling that warmth? Because when Archangel Michael is asking you to have courage and he's upside down, there's a lack of courage. And that's being joined by the restriction card. So somewhere Taurus is definitely stuck in some sort of, I feel like feels obligatory to me in some way, and maybe it's just because Christmas is a few days away and everybody's, even, I don't know if we have the most, I don't expect a lot of young kids in our crowd, but it's an interesting feeling. Hold on. Omega's being joined by the King. Shanti's being joined by the Love card upside down. And Xana's being joined by the Forgiveness card upside down. For my Tauruses, I really want to offer this. This is your this week. Again, I really feel like there's a heaviness in this week. I feel like that Jupiter square Chiron, which has been going on, it's stoking this wound of who I am and what I want and all that hero energy and even maybe being villainized for any fear or any anger or resentment. And now we think about Taurus, and Aries being your 12th house. So this is stuffed anger. This is something that maybe others don't see, or stuffed or a stifledness to being able to move forward. But Spirit is saying that part of this is looking to see if you have the courage to dig deep, to find some sort of inspiration, because this is about taking the law into your own hands. And that's writing your own story, doing your own thing, doing what is just and fair to you. Because the Love card being upside down and the Angel of Peace being here almost feels like it feels disruptive to me, honestly. It feels like maybe people are just crazy or cranky or you're not feeling loved. And so there is a lack of peace. But I think that's also part of maybe that Saturn and Neptune bringing up old history and where I've been eroded, where I've felt invisible, because there is protection here. And then the Forgiveness card is upside down, but this is the solution. And I don't think it's about forgiveness. It's a reconciliation. So this is what I want to say for my Tauruses. My moon is in Taurus in the first house in Placidus. And because of that, I very much identify with the family experience. I identify with how I was shaped by it. And at this stage in my life, while I don't engage with the family that is still alive, because it is destructive to me, it puts me in an old energy. And so in order for me to find peace, I have to remember that if I were to re-enter that situation, I'm not going to see anything that has shifted, and I'm going to be pushed into an old story that I don't want to recreate. This is the first time I have not done any Christmas. I mean, I have like a pillow out and a few, but I haven't done Christmas at all this year. I think this is a little bit difficult, to be honest. And again, I think the whole week is going to be heavy. And I think that it's, for those of us standing in awareness, we'll see it and we'll feel it, but maybe not quite as hard as the people that aren't. That's really good, 145 Club. That would be the benefit of a Uranus traveling through that house, calibrating who you are and your perceptions. All right, on to our Geminis, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Move the story forward. I can't even imagine how electric it's going to feel when when Uranus moves into Gemini and sits there for a minute, oh my goodness, I really think we're all going to feel like, woo, like everything's going to feel, whoosh. All right, your tarot card is, the Fool, but this time it's straight up. So this is an adventure. Oh, I just got chills and electricity all over the top of my head. All right, let's see where we're going with this. Gemini, if anybody is, ready to move around and be curious, Gemini is. But here I tend to, when I choose a certain deck in the morning, I feel like it's inspired for a reason. And in this particular deck, we don't see that cute little dog, as the companion to the Fool. We see an alligator that represents history to me, emotional history that's been written in the stars. Okay, there's all these stars in this pool. And this guy's power comes from being flexible, but yet being a leader to himself and understanding that his emotional body and what he knows intuitively is his North Star. We have Rosetta, which is actually upside down. So this would be something involving children and influencing children. We have Chantal, which is the angel of romance, but she's upside down. We have Grace and Antoinette, which is about compassion and seeing things from another person's point of view. And now we have Serafina, representing happy families, upside down. And my head is going nuts right now. Somebody's tapping on the top of my head. Almost feel like they're playing with my hair. Rosetta is being joined by the novice. Chantal's upside down, being joined by the restriction card. Grace and Antoinette is being joined by the perception card, but it's upside down. And the frog is upside down. Okay, I don't know why I'm going to say this for my Geminis. I don't know if you're interacting with siblings this week. When I saw Rosetta upside down, I didn't think it was about your children. I thought it was about potentially your siblings, the people around you, and being offered a new beginning. But part of that new beginning will come from not everybody meshes, in close quarters, because this restriction card and the love card makes me feel like, you don't have to love everybody in your family. Sometimes the stars just don't line up. But this Rosetta thing, this might be about children. It might be about children that are challenging. I'm just going to be blunt with my Geminis. You know what this looks like? It looks like a fool's journey into not trying to figure one side out or the other, to actually let whatever's going on fix itself. And because I believe my audience is of a certain age, that you probably have children, or, you have adult siblings or adult cousins, adult family members. Bygones, it is, because here's this. I don't think you have to be compassionate towards that person anymore. It might be driving you nuts, because the fool, the frog and Seraphina are upside down. The fool might be saying that, sometimes there is no repair, or there is no compromise, or there's not enough of affinity between a situation for people to bother to see your point of view. It could, it could be that way. But whatever it is, I think this is telling Gemini to move in a new direction and not to try to, it's funny because I don't always think of Gemini as, I think of them as kind of more light energy. And part of this may be because maybe the heavy energy isn't you, it's somebody else, and you're just like, I just don't want to relive the story over and over again. Move on, people. And you may just be like, what? That person's always going to be stuck in their crap. I was talking to a client yesterday, and these two children, experienced their father very differently. One had a very copacetic, great relationship, and the other one more challenge. Now, how does that happen? Two children come from the same parental unit, and yet they view things so differently. So somewhere here, this feels as if, for my Geminis, that this is more about a Mars type adventure where I'm going to see that my power is not in fixing it or trying to change it, but rather just let it be. This feels a little hard. I'm going to pull one more card, a tarot card on the frog and for Gemini, because it just ends kind of on a sour note. I need to know a little more detail. Okay, we just got the Wheel of Fortune. I want to offer this. Maybe this is saying to them that if you take just a little bit of a different tact, a new way of approaching a situation, maybe even being more flexible about a story that's repeated or a history that's repeated, you may get somewhere. The wheel may actually change and things might actually start moving where you want it to do. And all of this feels emotional. It does not feel like it's physical. Again, there's that square between Jupiter and Chiron, and this is Chiron's in the house of individuality, and Jupiter's in the house of family and family traditions, and they're fighting each other. They're exact at 22 degrees all week. That's a really challenging degree. And then Jupiter at the end of the week moves to 21 degrees. So this feels during Christmas like an exasperation of tension. So for my Geminis, it's not about defeat. It's not about victory. It's about a new adventure and perception. You don't have to necessarily have compassion for someone, but you can absolutely have compassion for yourself and say, I don't need to tell them I can't hear their story one more time. I'm just not going to listen to their story. Okay, on to our Cancers, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Oops. Okay. Cancer, the high priestess is here, but she's upside down. So this would be, this is where my intuition, my discernment, my connection to my emotional body, everything we're seeing here are these two crescent moons that are literally, flanking this or holding space for this full moon. So somewhere something wants to, or something's alerting you to something deeper on an emotional level, on an intuitive level. It would also mean you don't want to see it. You don't want to feel it. You don't want to know it, or you can't connect to it. And worry, insecurity, doubt will block connection to a deeper knowing. Ariel, new psychic and spiritual experiences are changing the way you view yourself. Layla wants you to spend more time communing with God and the angels. Maya wants you to learn more about your intuitive body and your intention and how it creates. And then finally, we have Archangel Uriel. This is okay. So literally, this is not about going to a class. This is about being aware of sometimes, our more compassionate and loving signs are also the signs that will harbor, things on the inside. They'll be pissed about something and they won't say it, or they won't address it, or they will stuff it. So spirit is like literally Ariel and the high priestess are in conflict, because the high priestess is saying you're not listening to an intuition, and Ariel is saying please listen to the intuitions. Layla's saying spend time connecting, but somehow you're frustrated or you're pissed off or you're unable to hear. Ariel's being joined by the Queen. Layla's being joined by the Lady of the Lake. Maya's being joined by the Dragon upside down, and Archangel Uriel is being joined by the Butterfly. I would say for my Cancers, you're experiencing a square. All the cardinal signs will be experiencing a square to, I shouldn't say all cardinal signs. Cancer and Capricorn are squaring the activity in Aries. So there's a square to Chiron. There is Jupiter in your first house. And this feels very much like you've gotten into doing mode. You've gotten into performing mode. You've gotten into mommy mode. You've gotten into the holiday structure mode or whatever it is. And Ariel is actually asking you to stop to receive messages because your North Star is off. Your interior knowing is off. The Lady of the Lake is offering you a deeper truth, but if you're on a hamster wheel of activity, you're not being able to hear it, and there starts to be a fight between your head and your heart. And that could be because whatever you want to do to make the holiday, whatever it is, whatever you desire to happen is not playing out exactly as you want it to do, but you're trying to get Spirit's trying to give you a message about how you're exerting your power and your strength. It's upside down right now. This is a card of calm, and it's not. It's upside down. And then here we have Archangel Uriel and the Butterfly. So somewhere you have an opportunity as you look a little bit deeper to blossom in and out of this, whatever resentment, whatever frustration, whatever anger, whatever unforgiveness, whatever you're feeling, and it may be something that's coming from you about something else, or it may be what you feel is coming towards you. I think it has more to do with something for you, for something else. And meaning this, I think this is you feeling, aware of a frustration, of wanting to connect in some way, of wanting to feel receptive. And yet I think you're stopping yourself somehow. I don't know how I want to say that. I think you're afraid of your own intuition right now. That's what I think. And your own intuition, because your intuition will tell you maybe potentially that things aren't what you want it to be. But at the same time, there is a limit to that, because when you calm down, you will learn something about a deeper truth. And when I say calm down, I'm not talking about calm down in your actions. I'm saying calm down within your fear or your trepidation. All right, let's go on to our Leos, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. If you're a Capricorn rising and you have a stellium in Leo, the stellium in Leo is going to supersede the rising. And I'm not talking about outer planets. I'm talking about personal planets. So just be mindful of that, because there's a lot of things that present layers within the chart. Okay. Leo, here we go. Speaking of Leo, I haven't seen Queen Leo in a while. I hope she's all right. Sending lots of love to her through the holidays. All right, here we go. Leo. What is your card for the week? The Nine of Cups, but it's upside down. This is not exactly, this is sort of, this is the wish card, and this would indicate that the wish is not being fulfilled. Let's look and see where we're going with this. Maya, she's the angel of schooling and education. Archangel Michael is about courage to make changes. Athena is about power and strength, but she is upside down. And then we have Teresa, and she is about worrying about everybody else, and she is upside down. Maya is being joined by the High Priestess, and she's upside down. Archangel Michael is being joined by the Love card. Athena is being joined by the Wind Fairy. Athena is upside down. Okay, and the Dragon is joining Teresa, and she's upside down. Leo, I have to say this. Of course, we know Pluto's opposing, early degrees of Leo. But this would really indicate that your wish is not being fulfilled because there's something going on where your vision isn't clear, your discernment isn't clear, and there's something to learn about that. Archangel Michael, because Maya's about schooling and education, and here's this card of discernment. Really looking at a situation and looking a little bit deeper as to how and what I want from the situation. Because literally, Archangel Michael is asking you to have the courage to come from love. And what does Leo rule? It rules love. It rules, it rules naive love. It rules love that believes in things before the heart has been dinged. Because it sounds like you're in your head, and that's contributing to whatever you want to happen. Whatever you want to have happen isn't happening because you're in your head and it's disempowering you. Your thoughts are racing about what isn't working rather than what is working. And inadvertently, I think potentially too, you're not aware of your actions, because Teresa's about worrying about other people, and this for you're not worrying about other people. And then we have the Dragon, which is about power and strength. And in this particular case, what I think, whatever's going on with Leo, your power is out of balance in some way. Either you're being too passive, or you're being too assertive, or you're not demonstrating that Leo energy that I would see in the Strength card. That's the way I want to put it, because whatever you want to have happen this week may not happen in the way that you want it. But I do think it will be illuminating where your focus has been throughout the week. And that would be the focus would be on worry, or the focus would be on the deficit, or the focus would be on, I don't know if it's going to happen. Let's move on to our Virgos, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Now that South Node, oof. Thanks, J-Dog, I appreciate that. Here we go. South Node's creeping up on my Venus, and I feel it. Creeping up on my Pluto. Hope I live through it. I'm pretty sure I will. Because I think having my particular Virgo house be the fifth house, much of it the fifth house, where the South Node is now, has more to do with my pleasure, has more to do with my fifth house Leo energy that's superimposed with the Virgo. So I want you to think about that when you look at your charts, because that South Node wants to release, excrete something that is not productive to moving forward. It's not chasing, it's not a component to the North Node in Pisces. So Virgo, the King of Pentacles is upside down. This is an interesting card because it would be being out of balance with resources, or not being a master with what you're creating material. Let's see where we're going. Or not feeling like a master, or not feeling like things are moving. And that could be very South Node related. First angel is Grace and Antoinette. Virgo is not always known to be compassionate to the self. Archangel Gabriel is here. Aurora is upside down, and then finally Mystique is upside down. I think one of the things that's being tasked in the Virgo energy, especially rising, is to really kind of be aware of self-criticism, perfection, or too much fixing other people, too much trying to help someone else rather than thyself. Grace and Antoinette is being joined by the dog, which literally just flew out of the deck. Archangel Gabriel is being joined by the novice. Aurora is being joined by the forgiveness card. And Mystique is being joined by the death card. Okay, for my Virgos, I think somewhere that you are materially out of balance. And I mean this potentially physically, potentially you're experiencing a lot of stress, overthinking about how things are going to play out. The King of Pentacles has a Taurus energy, so this is also about history, upside down. Grace and Antoinette is being joined by the dog. To me, this is a card of self-love and compassion for self because of this king might be driving you a little crazy. Archangel Gabriel is talking about insecurity, but also in communications, and it's time for a new beginning. It's time for new self-talk. Aurora is saying that you're not flying high right now. She's upside down because there's a lack of forgiveness. There's a lack of recalibration. And I don't really like the word forgiveness. I prefer reconciliation, where a negative experience or something I deem negative feels more positive to me, or I can understand why it happened. Even Lucky passing away at this, very tender 2-month mark, I can see some of the wisdom of his exit. And while I don't want to really acknowledge it because I still have much love and sadness for his passing, I can also acknowledge the joy that's being brought in, because the death card and the charging ahead card are both upside down, meaning you're not letting yourself come out of the dark. You're not letting yourself have a new beginning in some way. You're either being hyper worried about the future, you're not showing some compassion to self or for a situation in which you're involved in, and you have an opportunity here to start a new beginning, but it's going to have to be with a little bit more of a faith-based dynamic, more of that North Node, because the new beginning is not stable. So I think that has something to do with also this rewrite for you, this feeling of push-pull between the nodes. Okay, I think that's it. Let's move on to our Libras, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. All right, my Libras, here we go. Late born Libras, mid to late, you can be feeling your sun having this opposition to Chiron, square to Jupiter. Could be very challenging for your peace of mind. The Empress, this is Venus. This is lovely. It's also a card of gestation, of things growing, things coming into maturity. There's a lot of abundance here. So let's look and see where we're going. The Empress is not a harvest card. Hi, just call me C. Okay, Adriana is leading you to the answers to your prayers. Archangel Uriel is asking you to connect through prayer and meditation. Athena is talking about your strength. And Vanessa is asking if you have faith. So this is a process we're looking at here. And that process also is the South Node going through your 12th house of excreting any toxic, historic soul stuff. Adriana is being joined by the Risk card. Ariel's being joined by the Choice card, the Mystery card. Athena is being joined by the partnership card. And then finally, Vanessa's being joined by the focus card. Libra, you have something going on where you're in the midst of a period of creating something for yourself that has potential. But part of you, and we're looking at your ruling planet moving from Sagittarius this week into Capricorn, where she becomes more sober. She becomes more focused on building material resources. So here is a time to actually risk an inner knowing, risk a connection to spirit, risk a soul's inspiration, and allow yourself to be led, not to be know where the destination is, because you have to make the choice to let spirit lead you. And in doing so, it would be coming into partnership with spirit, but in a very powerful way. The Libra energy holds the supergalactic center at 22 or 2 degrees, 22 minutes of Libra. And that point is where we see ourselves as source energy, where we understand that we have the ability to through our focus and through our faith, receive the physical and material ingredients for whatever it is we want to manifest, because that is what spirit is asking you to do right now, to focus on your faith. This is not about a completion. This is not about validation right now. This is about a process of co-creating with spirit in a way that will bring out a goddess energy within all the Libras. Or, you can say, if you're a male, you're bringing out your creative and your co-creative energies in a more tangible way. And through the process, you're gaining power through the process of your partnership with spirit. That's pretty cool reading. All right, onward and upward to our Scorpios and our Sagittariuses, and then we'll be done for the day. All right, our tarot card for our Scorpios. Your tarot card is the Three of Swords, but it's reversed. This is where healing is. This is where the beginning of sorrow lifting. This is an energy. Now we know that Pluto is squaring Scorpio and Taurus, early degrees. So there could be something that Pluto released, killed off, but now the pain is lifting. The sorrow, the unknowing. Our first angel for Scorpio is Maya, schooling and education. The second is Desiree, which is about conditions. Archangel Gabriel's and the angel's advice. And then Shanti's reversed. All right, let's see where we're going here. Pluto being your ruling planet and squaring your sun right now is really an ego check, Like, is my ego aligned to the exciting God opportunities presented, or is it edging God out? Awesome. That's good to know. That means that you're here on time and where you're meant to be. Maya is being joined by the Trust card, but the Trust card is reversed. Desiree is being joined by the Serpent, but the Serpent is reversed. Archangel Gabriel is being joined by the Letting Go card, but the Letting Go card is reversed. And in the final position is the Death card, joining Shanti reversed. This is a metamorphosis for my Scorpios. This is really an opportunity. Again, the fixed signs in Scorpio is a very intense and very psychologically aware. Like, their inner knowing is so powerful, and it's so razored in on the challenge before it gets to the light, because you're getting a huge education in this experience, whatever this Three of Swords, this betrayal that is now past you, this heartache that involved, another two other people potentially. And now you're getting an education in your trust. Do I trust or don't I trust? Now the trust is a 47, which reduces down to an 11. So there's something about how much I focus in on the pain or on the problem. Because Desiree is saying that conditions aren't favorable because you have not incorporated a healing or the knowledge that is being offered to you through this education that Maya is giving you. Archangel Gabriel is about communication, and about, in some respects, it's about insecurity. The letting go card is about an incorporation. I don't think you're aware of your own self-talk and how it's contributing. Your pain may be true, the situation may be true, and you may be completely valid, but is it actually taking you to the next level? Because in order to feel peace, there needs to be a transformation. And this death card is a 46, which reduces down to a 10. And so we've got the trust card at 47. I'm lacking trust. And I don't feel peace because I'm not feeling trust, maybe even trust of my own inner thoughts. So this might be a challenging week. And I want to offer this too, because wherever, the Aries energy is, Aries is ruled by Mars, and Mars is your co-ruler. So there is something going on here that feels like synergistic to a transformation. So Aries is your 6th house. So this has to do with your thought process. We look at that 6th house, we think work, we think health, but it's the house of the mind that brings on stress, that brings on that, so I do think that somewhere putting yourself as a priority, what brings me peace, what fosters more of my balance. I don't want to erase whatever hurt you, wherever you feel betrayed, but it is kind of passing now, and it's time to allow that to transform. All right, our final sign of the day, Sagittarius, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. And these, I want to just comment that these last two, I know self-talk sucks, man. I don't think children are trained, and I know I wasn't, to think not positively, but just think it's okay to think well of yourself. It's okay to be excited about your talents. It's okay to be, this is where the real revolution comes in, Sierra, is where I believe the planets, Pluto in Aquarius, Uranus moving back into Gemini, and then of course Neptune moving into Aries in next month, in February. It's gonna make a big shift in those that are already standing in awareness. And I think we're gonna back off trying to please the muggle sheep, or the crowd, and we're gonna more individualize and stand in that. And then I think this is gonna really start to birth a new consciousness. All right, let's go to our final sign, Sagittarius. Try to keep this to an hour and a half. And this Neptune Saturn energy is going to be in your 4th, 5th house. So this is really powerful for my Sagittariuses. It's powerful for all of us. Your tarot card is the 2 of Wands, but it's upside down. Welcome, New Dawn. This could potentially be not being able to actually see the future just yet, not being able to, this would be when you see the 2 of Wands straight up as an Aryan energy, and it's sort of looking to the future, what do I want? And when I see it upside down, I almost feel as if the ego might be overshadowing the star here, that's the true impetus. And that can be, it can be an unusual thing and I want to say this lovingly to my Sagittariuses, because they are known to be, the most amicable and friendly and in some ways interesting because they're so diverse. But then there's that bad side of where it's I feel a little too much expansion, or there's, we're almost getting too big. And here with your ruling planet in square to Chiron in your 5th house, you may actually be rubbing up against something where your ego is And the ego is so villainized as being overinflated. It also can be underinflated, where there isn't enough ego. So something's going on here about your future. Oh, it is solstice day too. Thank you, Outer Spice. I forgot that. The shortest day of the year. I'll be in bed by 6:30. Not true, but pretty close. I can't wait for these days to get longer again this year, and all of this I just feel like, ugh. I'm not saying that 2026 is really teed up star-wise to be better, but at least it'll just close out this sadness, I hope. Okay, Sagittarius. Our first angel is Ariel, the connection to spirit. Archangel Uriel is here about the frustration and potential anger. Merlina's talking about confusion. And then Athena's talking about your strength. Ugh, I'm telling you, Laguna has its own ecosystem sometimes, because you could go 15 minutes inland and it'll be 75, 80 degrees. And here it's 60 degrees and foggy. And I literally feel like the fog of this last few months has been permeating everything, not just the weather, but my brain, my attitude, my motivation. I just am starting to feel like I'm getting back to myself again. Knock on wood. Just press forward, count as wood. Okay. Sagittarius. So you need to reconnect to spirit, or you get to through your meditations, through your studies and prayer. And that's where the transformation will come. There's the death card. We have Archangel Uriel being joined by the novice. New beginnings are being offered. Merlina's being joined with the wealth card, but it's upside down. And Athena's being joined by the partnership. I want to offer this. This is all about Sagittarius isn't able to really see the future, because somewhere potentially your ego is not stoked enough. You're not sitting in a high enough version of whatever you want for yourself. Literally, the transformation comes by connecting to spirit. It's funny, MK, when you say degrees, in an environment like this, we all immediately think, what sign, what planet? You're talking about the weather. Because Sagittarius, there's frustration, and there's a new beginning being offered to you. But I want to say this, there is a feeling of this Merlina and the wealth card echoing the Two of Wands upside down. I feel like in order for whatever you want to birth moving forward, whether you're identifying, for some reason, what I'm coming into, because I see this Athena on the partnership card, the things that Sagittarius is endeavoring that you feel will make you happy, whether it be connection with another person, connection with a community, connection to your future and what you want for yourself, it feels as if Spirit is saying you cannot take action right now until you stop and you connect with the deeper part of yourself, that soul part of yourself. Now we know that Sagittarius contains two major points. 27 degrees, Sagittarius is the galactic center, offering solutions to problems. When you go into meditation or do automatic writing or take a hike or take a walk and you pay attention to the signs and the omens. We also have the great attractor at 14 degrees of Sagittarius. And that has a bit of a wider orb. So if you're rising or your sun or your moon, any of your planets are around these points, this is really important. And somewhere you're not activating them. So Spirit is saying, in order to start the new beginning, where you're going to find the gold is to go back into your quiet time, so that your mind can start to move out the noise. And as you come into partnership with your own strength and your own vision, things will start to move forward. I also want to offer this. I think your ruling planet being retrograde and squaring Chiron could be part of the tension, because Chiron is that wound, and it's a wound of self. So, I'm not telling everybody to take off the rest of the year, but emotionally give yourself a break and sort of, don't try to push into any solutions. Allow Spirit to start to inspire solutions or inspire actions. And I don't want you to think that your future is not moving forward. There's that little tiny star feels like it's so important right now, is to implement the faith, that Sagittarius represents, and to recognize where my ego is being either, it's driving me in a way that feels unconscious. Now, I really want to, I don't want this to sound negative, because I know that my ego oftentimes would make choices that were, I thought would engage me in other ways, and they didn't. And so it wasn't my ego being out of balance because I thought I was so cool. It was my ego not recognizing where I was trying to engage the validation of other people for my vision. And that might be what I feel a little bit. So this is about coming into your own personal, yeah, I like this about me. I want to move in this direction. And this feels right to me. And this is where I want to expand. So that's it for this week. Everybody be gentle with yourself, because the stationing, that these planets that are sitting slowly in the sky at these degrees are heavy, and they're anchoring, and they're almost saying, I'm not going to move the story forward until you start to create something sustainable from your soul, from what you really want. It's time to stop saying I can't and start saying, why not? Why not? What's the worst that could happen? And then go up from there. I too wish you all a peaceful and a lovely and a inspiring, healthy, successful, but an aware new year, because sometimes those contrasting experiences, those experiences that feel like they're just disrupting our lives, are actually ushering in opportunities for our souls to feel power, to feel a sense of balance, to feel a sense of co-creation, and to kind of quiet that muggle mind. So thanks, everybody. Sending lots of love to you. We'll be back next week on the 28th, and we will be just moments away from a new year. So be gentle. And I'm here if anybody wants to schedule anything or look into their transits this upcoming year. That would be, I don't know, I think that would be pretty powerful to do. But all right, everybody, I love you. Say your prayers for small wildflowers, because this is going to be a hard week for her with, all the stuff that's going on with her. All right, sending lots of love. Peace out. Thanks, everybody. Bye.